In the midst of World War II, the United States faced numerous challenges, one being the unexpected influx of German prisoners of war. By 1944, Michigan, like many other states, found itself accommodating these captives in several POW camps. One notable facility was Camp Concordia, located in the central region of the state, nestled amidst sprawling fields and dense forests. With a capacity to hold approximately 1,700 prisoners, Camp Concordia was designed with military precision, featuring rows of barracks, a bustling mess hall, and recreational areas, all surrounded by barbed wire with watchtowers punctuating the perimeter, manned by vigilant guards from the U.S. Army's Military Police Corps. The war effort demanded additional labor, and German POWs were soon integrated into various labor sectors across Michigan. These sectors spanned agriculture, canneries, lumber mills, railroads, grocery stores, and notably, factories. Among these, an auto plant became a significant site where prisoners were tasked with unloading supplies and materials crucial for wartime production. This labor was not just a necessity for sustaining the war effort, it also kept the POWs occupied and productive, aligning with directives outlined by War Department circulars and documented in U.S. Army Provost Marshal General records. At the auto plant, German POWs were introduced to a unique facet of American labor culture: unionization. The plant was a unionized workplace, and within its walls, union posters were prominently displayed, detailing wage tiers, strike rules, and seniority benefits. Payroll charts ranked employees based on skill and experience, exemplifying a system where workers, rather than the state, negotiated wages and conditions through organized labor unions. These negotiations occurred quarterly, showcasing a dynamic labor environment that stood in stark contrast to the rigid, hierarchical structures familiar to the German soldiers. The POW's introduction to the American labor union system was meticulously documented in camp newspapers and reports from Red Cross inspections. These sources captured the prisoners' interactions with the civilian workforce and the structured negotiation processes that determined wages and working conditions. Although the POWs were paid nominally, often in the form of coupons rather than cash, these coupons could be used within the camp canteen, allowing them some measure of autonomy. This payment system adhered strictly to the Geneva Convention's stipulations on the treatment and compensation of prisoners. Food systems within the camp were organized with military precision. During a time when rationing policies were enacted nationwide, ensuring adequate sustenance for both prisoners and guards amidst wartime shortages was paramount. Agricultural labor contracts and transportation logs reveal the immense logistical efforts required to supply the camps, highlighting the integration of POW labor into the broader war economy. Farm produce and other essentials were transported to Camp Concordia, ensuring a steady stream of supplies to sustain the camp's population. The presence of German POWs in Michigan sparked a variety of reactions from the local population. Some civilians viewed the prisoners as a vital workforce contributing to the war effort, while others harbored resentment, fueled by wartime hostilities and the propaganda of the era. Incidents of hostility were documented, though they were relatively infrequent, as most interactions were governed by strict protocols that ensured security and discipline within the camps. Discipline at Camp Concordia was maintained through a structured hierarchy and regular inspections. Medical facilities were available to the prisoners, staffed by military medical personnel who ensured that health needs were met. Communication with the outside world was limited to censored mail, maintaining a controlled flow of information. Educational and recreational opportunities were provided through YMCA programs, which offered classes in various subjects and organized sports activities, fostering a semblance of normalcy within the confines of the camp. As the war drew to a close, focus shifted towards post-war repatriation and re-education programs. Directives from the Provost Marshal General outlined meticulous procedures for returning POWs to Germany, emphasizing the importance of ideological dismantling through exposure to democratic principles and the American way of life. These efforts were reflected in the structured environments and systems the POWs encountered during their captivity, aiming to reshape their perspectives before repatriation. The experience of German POWs in Michigan during 1944 provides a fascinating insight into the complexities of wartime labor, the influence of unionized work environments, and the broader socio-political dynamics at play. Through archival records, we gain a deeper understanding of a period where necessity drove innovation and human interactions were shaped by the exigencies of war and the ideals of democracy. The stories of these POWs and their interactions with the American labor system highlight the profound cultural exchanges that occurred amidst the backdrop of global conflict. This chapter in history stands as a testament to the resilience of systems and the enduring impact of cultural exchange in times of conflict. The legacy of these interactions continues to influence labor relations and cultural understanding in the years that followed, serving as a reminder of the complexities and nuances of human experiences during wartime. The integration of German prisoners of war into the American labor force during 1944 was a multifaceted and intricate endeavor that necessitated meticulous coordination between military authorities and civilian organizations. This effort was emblematic of a pragmatic approach to addressing the acute wartime labor shortages in the United States. At the heart of this initiative was Camp Concordia in Michigan, which housed approximately 1,500 German POWs. Their presence was not merely a matter of confinement and security, but a strategic move to bolster the American workforce during a time of unprecedented demand for labor in various industries. The U.S. Army Military Police Corps played a pivotal role in maintaining strict order and discipline within the camp, ensuring that the POWs adhered to regulations while efficiently facilitating their deployment to sectors where their labor was deemed essential. This involved a delicate balance of enforcing military protocol while integrating the POWs into civilian work environments, a task that required both diplomacy and authority. One of the most significant experiences for these German POWs was their exposure to the American system of labor unions, particularly within the auto plant, where many of them were assigned to work. The plant served as a microcosm of American industrial democracy, characterized by its vibrant and robust union culture. Union posters, prominently displayed throughout the facility, outlined wage tiers, strike rules, and seniority benefits, providing a stark contrast to the hierarchical and authoritarian work environments that the German soldiers were accustomed to. This exposure to a new way of organizing labor was both enlightening and challenging for the POWs, as it presented a different paradigm of worker rights and responsibilities. The auto plant's unionized workforce was organized under the auspices of the United Auto Workers, UAW, a powerful entity that had gained significant influence in advocating for workers' rights. The POWs, although not members of the union, observed from the periphery as negotiations unfolded, offering them an inadvertent education in the principles of collective bargaining. These negotiations, which occurred on a quarterly basis, underscored the dynamic and participatory nature of American labor relations. Unlike the rigid structures of military command, the workers at the plant engaged in dialogues with management, highlighting the democratization of labor through organized representation. This process was a revelation for the POWs, who witnessed firsthand how workers could collectively negotiate for better wages and working conditions. As the POWs unloaded supplies, a task essential to maintaining the war production machine, they encountered payroll charts ranking employees by skill and experience. These charts were not merely administrative tools, but symbols of a meritocratic system that rewarded proficiency and tenure. In this environment, the state did not dictate wages. Instead, they were negotiated through the collective power of the workers, a concept that was both foreign and enlightening to the German POWs. This merit-based system challenged the POWs' preconceived notions of labor relations and provided them with a new perspective on the value of worker contributions. The educational programs offered within Camp Concordia further facilitated the POWs' understanding of American labor practices. These programs included lectures and discussions led by union representatives who elucidated the principles and history of labor movements in the United States. The POWs were introduced to the works of influential figures such as Samuel Gompers and John L. Lewis, whose advocacy for workers' rights had shaped the modern labor landscape. These educational efforts were part of a broader initiative aimed at re-education with the goal of fostering an appreciation for democratic ideals among the POWs. Through these programs, the POWs gained insights into the philosophical underpinnings of the American labor movement and its emphasis on equality and fairness. Outside the confines of the auto plant, the POWs contributed to other sectors integral to Michigan's war economy. In agriculture, they worked alongside American farmers, participating in the cultivation and harvest of crops. Their labor was crucial in ensuring a steady supply of food during a time when many American men were serving overseas. In canneries, the POWs assisted in the processing and packaging of food products critical to the war effort. The lumber mills and railroads also benefited from the POWs' labor, highlighting the versatility and integration of these foreign workers into the local economy. This broad engagement in various sectors demonstrated the POWs' adaptability and their vital role in sustaining the American war effort. The interactions between the POWs and the civilian workforce were not without tension. Some locals viewed the presence of enemy soldiers with suspicion, perceiving them as a potential threat despite their non-combatant status. This suspicion was fueled by wartime propaganda and the natural apprehension of having former adversaries in close proximity. However, others recognized the pragmatic necessity of their labor and engaged with the POWs in a spirit of cooperation. These exchanges, while limited by language and cultural barriers, contributed to a gradual easing of hostilities and an increased understanding of shared human experiences. Over time, the POWs and local workers developed a mutual respect as they realized that, despite their differences, they shared common goals and challenges. As the war drew towards its conclusion, the focus shifted towards repatriation and the long-term impact of these experiences on both the POWs and the communities that hosted them. The exposure to American labor practices and democratic ideals left an indelible mark on the POWs, many of whom returned to Germany with a newfound appreciation for collective bargaining and workers' rights. This ideological shift, although not uniformly embraced, influenced post-war labor relations in Germany, contributing to the development of a more open and democratic society. The experiences gained by the POWs during their time in the United States played a role in shaping the labor policies and practices in post-war Germany, as they sought to replicate some of the democratic principles they had observed. In the broader context, the presence of German POWs in Michigan during World War II served as a unique cultural exchange, illustrating the complexities of wartime labor and the transformative power of exposure to new ideas. The lessons learned within the auto plant and other sectors reverberated beyond the immediate confines of the camp, leaving a lasting legacy on the individuals involved and the communities that engaged with them. This period of interaction and mutual learning highlighted the potential for reconciliation and mutual understanding, even amidst the adversities of war. The archival documentation of these events provides valuable insight into the intricate dynamics of labor relations during a period of global conflict. Through meticulous records and first-hand accounts, historians are able to reconstruct the nuanced interactions and cultural exchanges that characterize this chapter of wartime history. The German POWs, once considered adversaries, became unwitting participants in a system that championed workers' rights and democratic participation, highlighting the potential for reconciliation and mutual understanding even amidst the adversities of war. In conclusion, the integration of German POWs into the American labor force during World War II was a remarkable chapter in history that underscored the complexities and challenges of wartime labor. It was a testament to the resilience of human spirit and the transformative power of exposure to new ideas and systems. The experiences of the POWs and their interactions with the American workforce left a lasting impact, fostering a legacy of understanding and cooperation that transcended national boundaries and ideological differences. The integration of German POWs into the American labor force during 1944, particularly within Michigan's auto industry, presented a unique intersection of necessity and ideology. As the United States became increasingly embroiled in the global conflict of World War II, domestic labor shortages necessitated the utilization of alternative labor sources. This shortage was particularly acute in industries critical to the war effort, such as the automotive sector, which had been repurposed to support military production. The presence of German POWs working alongside American civilians created an environment ripe for cultural exchange and mutual understanding, albeit under the constraints of wartime exigencies. The auto plant, a sprawling complex of steel and concrete, was emblematic of American industrial might. Within its walls, the hum of machinery and the rhythmic clatter of assembly lines formed a constant soundtrack, underscoring the relentless drive of American industry. This industrial behemoth was not just a workplace, but a microcosm of American society, where diverse individuals came together to contribute to a collective goal. The plant's unionized nature was immediately evident to new arrivals. Union posters adorned the walls, detailing wage tiers, strike rules, and seniority benefits. These documents, written in English and occasionally accompanied by diagrams or charts, offered a stark contrast to the German POWs' previous experiences with labor hierarchy, which were rigidly structured and dictated without negotiation. The payroll charts, prominently displayed in the plant's main office, ranked employees by skill and experience. This system, which allowed for upward mobility based on merit and tenure, was explained to the POWs through the use of translators and occasionally bilingual workers. The concept of earning a wage based on collective bargaining was foreign to many of the German laborers, accustomed as they were to the top-down directives of the Nazi regime. The notion that workers could have a say in their working conditions, wages, and benefits was revolutionary and challenged the authoritarian ideologies they had been exposed to in Germany. The union negotiations, occurring quarterly, were a formal affair. Union representatives, elected by their peers, would sit across from management in a designated meeting room. The process was methodical, with each party presenting their case, supported by data and precedent. German POWs, though not participants in these meetings, had opportunities to witness the proceedings. The presence of impartial mediators and the use of structured debate were aspects that drew particular attention. The emphasis on dialogue and compromise illustrated a democratic approach that was absent from their previous experiences. The POWs also contributed to sectors beyond the auto industry. In agriculture, they worked alongside local farmers, harvesting crops that were essential to the war effort. This labor provided a different perspective on American society. The rural communities, though initially wary, gradually accepted the POWs' presence, recognizing their contributions to local economies. The interactions between POWs and American farmers were often characterized by mutual respect and understanding, as both parties worked towards a common goal of supporting the war effort. Similarly, in canneries and lumber mills, the POWs learned about the cooperative nature of unionized labor, where safety regulations and fair wages were negotiated collectively. Railroad work, another sector where POWs were employed, offered insights into the logistical backbone of the American war effort. Here, the German workers observed the coordination required to maintain efficient supply lines, a critical component of wartime strategy. The railroads, heavily unionized, demonstrated the power of organized labor in ensuring operational efficiency and worker safety. The intricate network of railroads crisscrossing the country was a testament to the American commitment to logistical excellence, a concept that left a lasting impression on the German POWs. Despite the overarching goal of maintaining order and discipline, the U.S. Army Military Police Corps recognized the potential benefits of this inadvertent cultural exchange. While the primary objective was to utilize POW labor to alleviate wartime shortages, the exposure to democratic principles was seen as a positive byproduct. Educational programs within Camp Concordia began to incorporate elements of American civics, preparing the POWs for eventual repatriation and reintegration into post-war Germany. These programs included discussions on democratic governance, civil liberties, and the rights and responsibilities of citizens in a democratic society. The archival records from this period highlight the complexities of these interactions. Reports filed by military personnel detailed not only the productivity of POW labor, but also noted shifts in attitudes among the prisoners. While ideological dismantling was not the explicit aim, the environment fostered a gradual understanding of alternative governance and labor systems. POWs began to appreciate the value of negotiation, compromise, and the collective pursuit of common goals, principles that were integral to the functioning of American democracy. As the war drew to a close, the focus shifted towards repatriation. The U.S. government, alongside Allied forces, emphasized the importance of re-education in democratic ideals. The experiences of the German POWs in Michigan played a crucial role in this process. Upon returning to Germany, many former prisoners carried with them new perspectives on labor relations and governance, influenced by their time in the United States. These lessons proved invaluable as Germany embarked on the challenging path of post-war reconstruction, striving to rebuild its economy and society based on democratic principles and practices. The legacy of these interactions was multifaceted. For the American communities that hosted POWs, the experience underscored the potential for cultural exchange even amidst conflict. For the German POWs, the exposure to unionized labor and democratic negotiation provided a foundation for post-war reconstruction efforts in Germany. The archival footage from this era, preserved in military and labor union records, serves as a testament to the transformative potential of these wartime experiences. The integration of German POWs into the American labor force, driven by necessity, ultimately facilitated a broader exchange of ideas and values, contributing to the reshaping of post-war Europe. In the years following the return of the POWs to Germany, historians and scholars would analyze the impact of their experiences in American labor environments. Discussions at academic conferences and in historical journals often focused on the diffusion of democratic ideals and labor practices from the United States to post-war Germany. This period of enforced coexistence, though brief, was seen as a catalyst for change, influencing the development of labor policies and unionization efforts in the rebuilding German state. The archival records, including photographs of POWs at work in Michigan's industries and documents from union negotiations, provide invaluable insights into this unique chapter of history. They offer a detailed account of how necessity led to an unexpected exchange of ideas, illustrating the profound ways in which wartime circumstances can lead to lasting peacetime transformations. The story of the German POWs in Michigan serves as a reminder of the complex interplay between conflict and cooperation, highlighting the enduring impact of shared experiences across cultural and national divides. As these former adversaries worked side by side, they forged connections that transcended national boundaries and laid the groundwork for a more interconnected and cooperative post-war world. In the fall of 1944, the world was gripped by the relentless throes of World War II. Amidst the global turmoil, the state of Michigan found itself playing an unexpected role in the war effort. This role was not just defined by its industrial contributions, but also by the presence of German prisoners of war, POWs, who became an integral part of Michigan's industrial landscape. Stationed at Camp Concordia, these POWs were routinely transported to various work sites, including a bustling auto plant. There, they encountered something quite foreign to them, the structured environment of American labor unions. This exposure unfolded in settings replete with visual aids and symbology, such as the prominent union posters that decorated the plant's walls. These posters were more than just decorative items. They were instructional tools, emblazoned with bold lettering and clear delineations of wage tiers, strike rules, and seniority benefits. They served as motivational symbols for the workforce, embodying the principles of fairness and collective bargaining. For the German POWs, who were accustomed to the rigid hierarchical and authoritarian labor systems of Nazi Germany, the concept of collective bargaining was alien. The plant's payroll charts, meticulously ranking employees by skill and experience, provided a tangible representation of merit-based advancement. This was a stark contrast to the rigid structures they had known, where advancement was often based on party loyalty rather than skill or experience. Every quarter, negotiations between the union representatives and plant management would take place, determining the wage scales and working conditions for the upcoming period. These negotiations highlighted the dynamic nature of the American labor market, emphasizing the power workers held in shaping their employment terms. To the POWs, these activities must have seemed both bewildering and fascinating, offering a glimpse into a democratic process that was starkly different from the dictatorial regime they were used to. Archival footage from the period provides a poignant window into this world. The POWs are depicted unloading supplies, their movements synchronized yet purposeful, under the watchful eyes of the U.S. Army Military Police Corps. Clad in their authoritative uniforms, the MPs maintained a vigilant presence, ensuring order while overseeing the integration of POW labor into the civilian workforce. The footage captures the rhythmic clatter of machinery, interspersed with the occasional barked order, painting a vivid picture of the disciplined environment within which these cultural exchanges occurred. As the POWs became more familiar with the operations of the plant and the overarching union structures, a subtle yet significant shift in their understanding began to take place. The democratic ideals underpinning the American labor system became increasingly apparent, particularly through the lens of the union's activities. Regular meetings were held, and although the POWs were not participants, their proximity to these discussions allowed them to glean insights into the democratic process of decision-making. The environment became a crucible of learning, where the principles of negotiation, compromise, and collective action were not just theoretical concepts, but lived realities. Beyond the auto plant, broader Michigan labor sectors, encompassing agriculture, canneries, lumber mills, and railroads, also played a role in this educational journey. Each sector, with its unique challenges and practices, offered the POWs a comprehensive view of how labor was organized and regulated across different industries. Archival documents from the time reveal a nuanced understanding of these sectors, detailing the economic imperatives that necessitated the integration of POW labor and the subsequent impact on local labor dynamics. In the auto plant, initial interactions between the POWs and the civilian workforce were often marked by suspicion and cultural barriers. However, over time, these interactions gradually evolved into more cooperative relationships. This evolution was facilitated by shared labor objectives and the necessity of collaboration to meet production goals. The civilian workers, many of whom were union members, took on an informal role as educators, explaining the intricacies of the labor system to the POWs. This exchange of knowledge was not only practical, but also ideological, offering the POWs a glimpse into the participatory nature of American democracy. As the war drew closer to an end, the focus within Camp Concordia began to shift towards repatriation and the re-education of the POWs. The insights gained from their time within the American labor system became a crucial component of their post-war integration plans. The camp's administration, in collaboration with labor union representatives, initiated programs designed to prepare the POWs for their return to Germany, emphasizing the democratic values they had observed and the potential applications of these ideals within a post-war context. The archival records from this period are replete with detailed accounts of these re-education efforts, highlighting the complexities involved in translating theoretical knowledge into practical applications. The POWs, now equipped with a new perspective on labor relations and democracy, were poised to play a role in shaping the future of Germany's labor landscape. This transformation was not immediate, nor was it without challenges, but it laid the groundwork for a gradual ideological shift that would influence the development of labor practices in post-war Germany. Through these experiences, the POWs at Camp Concordia and the auto plant in Michigan became unlikely ambassadors of democratic labor ideals. Their exposure to the American union system, characterized by its emphasis on collective bargaining and worker empowerment, offered a contrasting narrative to the authoritarian structures they had previously known. As they prepared to return to Germany, the lessons learned during their time in the United States became a part of their personal and collective histories, contributing to a broader understanding of democracy and labor rights. In reviewing the archival materials from this era, it is evident that the interaction between German POWs and the American labor system was a multifaceted and transformative experience. It exemplified the potential for cultural exchange to foster new understandings, even amidst the adversities of war. The legacy of these interactions, while not immediate, became woven into the fabric of post-war labor relations, illustrating the unanticipated ways in which wartime experiences can leave a lasting impact on individuals and societies. The story of the German POWs in Michigan is a testament to the power of exposure and education. It highlights how even in the most unexpected circumstances, there is potential for learning and transformation. As these men returned to a devastated Germany, they carried with them new ideas and perspectives that would contribute to the rebuilding of their nation. Their experiences in Michigan, amidst the hum of machines and the structured negotiations of unions, were not just a footnote in history, but a chapter in the ongoing story of democracy and labor rights. As the war concluded and the process of repatriating German prisoners of war began, the POWs at Camp Concordia prepared to leave Michigan. The camp administration meticulously followed directives from the U.S. government and Allied forces, ensuring that the transition back to Germany was organized and systematic. Detailed records from the Provost Marshal General's office outlined the logistical steps involved, from medical examinations to the issuance of necessary travel documents. The emphasis was on returning the POWs in good health and with a newfound understanding of democratic principles. Upon their return to Germany, many former POWs encountered a nation in the midst of reconstruction. The experiences and insights gained during their captivity in the United States became valuable as they navigated the challenges of rebuilding their country. The exposure to unionized labor and democratic negotiation processes offered them perspectives that differed significantly from pre-war ideologies. Some of these individuals found roles within Germany's evolving labor landscape where they applied the principles of collective bargaining and worker rights they had observed in Michigan. The post-war German labor movement, influenced in part by these returning POWs, gradually incorporated more democratic elements. This shift was documented in labor union records and government reports, highlighting the transition towards more participatory and equitable labor practices. The legacy of the POW's exposure to American labor systems manifested in the strengthening of unions and the adoption of labor policies that emphasized worker empowerment and negotiation. In Michigan, the temporary presence of German POWs left a lasting impression on the communities that interacted with them. Local historical societies and labor unions preserved records and photographs from this period, recognizing the significance of these interactions in fostering a broader understanding of cultural exchange and cooperation. The pragmatic necessity of utilizing POW labor during wartime had inadvertently facilitated a unique form of international dialogue with enduring impacts on both sides. The archival documentation of this era provides historians with a comprehensive view of the complexities involved in wartime labor integration. It serves as a reminder of the potential for human experiences, even under challenging circumstances, to contribute to long-term societal change. The story of the German POWs in Michigan underscores the importance of understanding and openness, highlighting how exposure to new ideas and systems can lead to transformative developments in post-conflict settings. In conclusion, the integration of German POWs into Michigan's labor force during World War II was a multifaceted endeavor that yielded significant cultural and ideological exchanges. The experiences of these POWs, shaped by their exposure to American labor practices, contributed to the reshaping of post-war Germany's labor landscape. This chapter in history stands as a testament to the unforeseen ways in which wartime interactions can influence peacetime transformations, fostering a legacy of mutual understanding and cooperation.